So 5 to 8 megawatts is a number that I want you to, or rather, sorry, kilowatts is a number that I want you to hold in your mind for the next 15, 20 minutes as we speak. Okay. Can we have the slides? So just keep that number as we go through the presentation. Sorry, there seems to be a... So very quickly to just introduce EPI. So we are today a 39-year-old organization. We've worked only and only around data centers in all these 39 years. Started off in the UK way back in 1987. Today we have our global headquarters in Singapore. We've been in India for the last 19 years. And what we do is obviously audits and certifications, so facilities audits and certifications, TIA 942, ISO 22237, EN standards, so on and so forth. We do operations audit and certifications, and that is something that is becoming very, very important today. So the DCOS standard, which is the data center operations standard, so audit and certification against that. And then the people training, so the CDCP, CDCS, the trainings that you would have heard of, and most veterans in the industry are certified too. We hold the intellectual property rights to those, and we deliver those trainings across the globe. Right, so I asked you to hold this number in your mind, and maybe you need to hold this for the next 20 minutes so that you get to the context I'm trying to draw. Now, this is what most data centers, even today, maybe 10 kilowatts to the max of what they were designed for, right? And now, suddenly, the math has changed. We're talking about a single rack of 120 kilowatt, right? It could be the GB200, GB300, and going forward, the newer ones that have already been announced. And that's what we are looking at. So we planned something, we designed something, but what is walking through the door is completely different. And this is not a step change. This is an entire regime change, right? The physics is changing, the power, the cooling. Everything is being expected to do something that it was not designed to do. That is where we are. So we are talking about 20x the load in the same square foot of space that we had designed for earlier. So there's a corridor that is being drawn, and I like to call this the silicon corridor, right? So I call it the Dakshin Silicon Corridor. This spans from Chennai, Sriperumbudur, Hosur, and touching Bangalore. So this is about a 325 kilometer arc, which is kind of becoming the next hotspot. So we obviously had some panelists talk about, what are the new AI hubs that are coming up. And this is already something that is happening, right? And being in Chennai, I thought it was important that we speak about this corridor. Chennai already holds 18%, roughly, a percentage up and down here and there, but roughly 18% of the data center capacity of the country is already there in Chennai. And with the new hyperscalers, AI infrastructures, sovereign cloud announcements that are happening, we're already seeing the foundation of the next few gigawatts to come up is already happening. So that has been announced, that's already there. Now, this space is unprecedented. And most of my colleagues who have been with me in this industry would agree to this. I've spent today 19 years, at EPI, where I still remember customers when the first time they called me and they said, we are building a huge data center and we need, some design guidance on that. And then back then that was really huge, and we were looking at a 3 megawatt transformer that we were bringing in there, right? Now, 3 megawatt was considered to be a huge data center 19 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were working on that. Now, when you look at it, we are talking about, in those 19 years, what I'm standing at today is 1.5 gigawatt, somewhere around there, which is the total capacity of the data center infrastructure in the country today. But when you look at what's happening, and these are projects that are already announced, ground has already been broken and everything done, we're talking about anywhere between 5 to 9 gigawatts of capacity that is coming up in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So we are in some sense talking about tripling to quadrupling to 5x or 6x or 7x the capacity at which we are standing today, right? Now, the question here is, of course, we're tripling the capacity in the next 5 years, or we are 5xing or 6xing or 7xing the capacity. What are we doing, right, to this infrastructure? Are we tripling or, with the same multiple? Are we doing the audits at that same rate? Or are we just, tripling or quadrupling the certificates? The most important thing is how much are we investing in and taking seriously the audits that need to be done, right? So we saw this whole thing, right? This has to be designed, this has to be built, this has to be audited, and this has to be operated, right? So the audit is going to be a very, very fundamental aspect in this entire life cycle that we are looking at. So typically what we get to see is two kinds of audits, right? Now, most of the times, you will find that there is, of course, the audit type A, and there is a reason why I've put it in inverted commas, right? So this is basically a document, tick in the box, checklist kind of an audit that is happening. So if you look at the TI 942 or the EN or now the ISO 22237, you find that there is a table at the back of the standard, right? So you get somebody who takes a checkbox and starts ticking there and calls that an audit. So that is one thing that's happening. Often a single day kind of an engagement, some photos here and there, some interviews here and there. Findings which are only the obvious, some missing labels, some SOPs that could be missing, etc. And then, of course, the output is a wall-mounted certificate that you can claim to say that you are certified. And then there is the type B of the audits, where we're talking about an in-depth review of the design intent against the as-built, what you find ultimately at the site. We're talking about calculations that are reviewed in great detail. It is not just looking at your supplier quotes. We're looking at findings that, if triggered, they can actually take you offline, right? So here we're looking at a list of findings that can actually have an impact on what you are building out today or designing today. And the output is a prioritized remediation list, which, if addressed, will ultimately get you to the real certificate. Now, typically 4 patterns that we are finding evolving or coming out, as we see. So typically, most times we are finding this as a repeated thing that is always happening when you look at the typical A type of audits. We can move to the next slide. So the 4 patterns, and very important, this is very, very important for you when you're doing your designs, when you're getting your audits done to check what's happening. The SLD, and we call it the SLD that lies, right? So this is a typical SLD. I don't need to explain what it typically does. But yes, the 5 areas that you want to look at is, of course, is your auditor reconciling the SLD load schedules? Are you looking at all the protection schedules? Are you looking at all the equipment commissioning records? Is your auditor reconciling the SLD against the layout drawings? So the design intent vis-a-vis the as-built that is happening, the redundant pathways. Are you really sampling 10 to 15% of the breakers, verifying the nameplate? Are you looking at the coordination studies? Are you doing all that? Or rather, is your auditor doing all that? Trace every change since the most recent revision that happened to the MOC or the RFI and see whether that is actually there, right? So that is how detailed an SLD review has to be, and not just looking at whether you have 2 legs, A and B. The other thing is we need to understand that concurrent maintainability is not fault tolerance, right? The first requirement of fault tolerance is to be able to auto-detect. Auto-detect means that in the absence of any field engineer on the ground, I should be able to identify a fault, right? That is called auto detect. The next leg there is auto isolate. Again, without the involvement of a human or a field engineer on the ground, the system should be able to isolate the fault and then ultimately continue operation. Now, most audits that we have seen do not go beyond the leg one that we spoke about on the previous slide, right? So auto detect, yeah, you might be doing that, but auto isolation might not be something that we see in a lot of the audits that are happening. So again, you have to be very, very careful in terms of what exactly your auditor is doing with that. So pass or fail on the certificate, that doesn't really matter. But what matters is if there is a pass, fail on the fault, right? So that is the most important thing that you're trying to ensure by getting a proper audit done. The other thing is, of course, the symmetric and the asymmetric block redundancy. So this is what most hyperscalers today are using. Most of the designs that you as colo providers, et cetera, would be having to do for the customers that you're bringing on board. Right, so we obviously call this one also distributed, or 3 makes 2, or 4 makes 3, or 5 makes 4. So there are multiple flavors to that one. And then, of course, the asymmetric, which is the typical catcher. So 2 different topologies that you can see here, of course, but again, they have, we can have definitely a different discussion on the pros and cons. That's obviously not the point that I'm trying to drive here. But 2 different audit methods and some blind spots in the Indian audits, right? So again, you need to be very careful whether the auditor understands these principles and is able to really identify the single point of failures in such designs that are available today. Now we are also moving to liquid cooling, right? And since morning, I think every panel or every discussion that I'm hearing is somewhere, hovering around or revolving around liquid cooling. And that is indeed a challenge, right? We really do not have the skilled manpower today to be able to understand, implement, design, and run these at the scale that we would be needing to do soon. So we need to kind of build those capabilities very soon. So again, from an audit standpoint, are you able to really look at what is happening? So the primary side, I really don't care too much. But now we're talking about the SFN, we're talking about the secondary side, right? Is the auditor able to understand? Has he ever opened a CDU? Does he know what does it look like, right? We're talking about mapping every single point of failure, whether it is the CDU pumps, the manifold isolation valves, which is where the biggest problems lie in most of the audits that I have done. The quick disconnects, the secondary loops. So these are things that need to be looked at in great detail. Trace the dual path provisions, right? So that is something that has to be looked at very carefully. Review the design, stuff. Make sure that the chemistry control and all that is taken care of. So these are things that need to be looked at in a real detailed audit, right? So we need to make sure that the auditor is doing this. So what does a real audit look like? Now, just to summarize what we saw in the past 4 patterns that typically, which are the most impactful ones that you see in these audits. So again, most of the audits that we see, the A-type, they don't go past the first pattern, right? Let alone getting to the second, the third, and the 4th pattern. So this is something that we want to be very, very clear on that we look at. So 5 questions, and you might want to take a picture of this slide, right? These are the 5 questions that I would want you to ask, the auditors that you are talking to, even if that is my auditor or any other auditor that you're talking to. These are the 5 questions. So I'm I'm really not going to read out everything, but very quickly to, check on the 4 things that we spoke about. So are they, reconciling the single line diagram? Are they going to test all the legs of the fault tolerance? So auto detect, isolate, continue operation, is that going to be looked at in detail, right? Look at the technologies or the topologies in terms of the catcher, the 3N to the distributed redundancies, etc. Ask them to show you, sample reports where they have looked at these and identified these. You will map the single points of failure on the liquid cooling loop. So how much do they understand the liquid cooling infrastructure and identifying the single point of failures there? And when, where current coordination studies exist, would you be, looking at, the breaker settings, etc. And if not, will that be highlighted as a finding on the report, right? So these are the most basic, I would say, the most hygiene 5 questions that you should be asking your auditors when you give them an audit. So hyperscaler grade design and facility audits, the continuous operations audits, this is something that we've been doing and in India for the last 18 or 19 years, right? So with 18 years in India, we are the only firm that is running both these at this depth. So we are talking about, when we say, the TI 942, the ISO 22237, if EN, which is not of great interest, this part of the world that is more in Europe, so if EN is of interest, we do that as well. Apart from that, of course, the DCOS, which is the data center operations standard. There is another challenge that we are looking at and we have been addressing since the very beginning of our existence is the skills cliff. And this is kind of, so when you look at, we're talking about 6x, 7x of the growth in the data center industry, the infrastructure that is coming up, the skills are kind of getting upgraded or scaled at marginally at a 1.5x of that scale. So there is a huge gap that is existing today. So obviously the gap is structural. We need to have a holistic view around that, and what we need to focus is on the foundation depth. So you start at the foundation layer, specialist, and then the life cycle around it is something that we need to have covered. And then obviously another very, very important thing missing today is the refresher rate. So these trainings, you need to have a refresher as well to make sure that the teams are up to date with what's happening. So obviously this depth is not something we can import. Yeah, we can import the latest CDUs, we can import the latest direct to chip, we can import the latest immersion cooling systems, but this depth, we have to grow it on our own, right? So this is something that we will need to spend time on, we will have to have some investments on and take this. So we have a solution to this as well. So the most popular EPI data center training framework, where we have courses around design and build, maintenance and operations, risk, standards and compliance, and then there is of course to do with the on the IT side of things, so the CNCDP, which is on the network side of things, CDCESS, which is on the sustainability side of things. So a certificate tells you what passed, right? So if you see a certificate on a wall, it tells you what passed, but a real audit tells you what is about to fail. And I think that is what is the most important thing. That is what that you should be looking for to ensure that the millions of dollars of investment that you're putting in are protected and you know how to take care of that. And the people who can design and run these facilities, we have to grow our own, right? So this was a discussion that was happening on the previous panel as well. So I think that's, again, something that we need to make sure that we have proper focus on the training part of things. So that's all from me, thank you. So I think I've been able to close it well before the time. Oh, 0, he says, so. I think on the nick of time. I'm available here. We have a booth outside as well. So if you have any questions on the audits, on the trainings, operations is becoming very, very critical. So you need to have, proper processes and policies and everything from an operations perspective. There's a sea change in how we operated data centers earlier and what's happening today, right? So we are there and we can help you with all of this, and I'll be more than happy to take up any questions or anything that you have maybe outside at the booth. Thank you.